Welcome to our channel. Today, we embark on a journey into the heart of modern warfare, a realm where cunning and tenacity often overshadow sheer might. We're diving into the top 10 militaries that successfully crushed guerrilla wars imposed on them. Guerrilla warfare, as old as conflict itself, presents a unique challenge. It thrives in the shadows, blurring the lines between combatant and civilian, turning the very land into a weapon. Join us as we dissect their tactics, their victories, and the often overlooked human cost, revealing the delicate balance between force and strategy that shaped these conflicts. For decades, the lush island nation of Sri Lanka was gripped by a brutal civil war. The liberation tigers of Tamil Eelam, known as the Tamil Tigers, waged a relentless guerrilla campaign for an independent Tamil state. Entrenched in their jungle strongholds, the Tigers employed ruthless tactics, utilizing suicide bombings and child soldiers. The Sri Lankan military, initially caught off guard, faced a daunting task. However, they adapted, launching a multi-pronged offensive, combining relentless military pressure with a hearts and minds campaign to win over the civilian population. The Sri Lankan military exploited the Tigers' reliance on seaborne supplies, effectively blockading their strongholds. On land, they pushed relentlessly, reclaiming territory inch by bloody inch. By 2009, the Tigers were cornered, their leadership decimated. The Sri Lankan victory serves as a stark reminder of the brutal realities of guerrilla warfare. In the aftermath of World War II, the British Empire faced a new threat in the jungles of Malaya. Communist guerrillas, emboldened by their wartime resistance against the Japanese, launched a campaign to overthrow British rule. The dense jungles provided the perfect cover for the insurgents, allowing them to melt away after lightning raids on British outposts and plantations. The British Army, accustomed to conventional warfare, found themselves ill-prepared for this new type of enemy. They implemented a hearts and minds campaign, winning over the local populace by providing essential services and undermining support for the guerrillas. One of their most effective tactics was the creation of new villages, fortified settlements designed to isolate the guerrillas from their support base. The British also employed specialized jungle warfare units like the SAS, who used their deep knowledge of the terrain and unconventional tactics to track down and eliminate the enemy. After years of brutal fighting, the Malayan emergency finally came to an end. In 1954, the Algerian War erupted, pitting French forces against the Algerian National Liberation Front, or FLN. The FLN, masters of guerrilla warfare, utilized the rugged terrain and urban centers to their advantage, launching surprise attacks and disappearing into the populace. The French army, initially caught off guard, responded with overwhelming force. They sought to crush the rebellion through brutal counter-insurgency tactics, including torture, mass arrests, and the displacement of entire villages. While these methods yielded some military success, they came at a heavy price. The brutality of the conflict alienated the Algerian population, fueling further resentment and support for the FLN. Despite achieving tactical victories, the French faced mounting international pressure and domestic dissent. In 1962, after 8 years of brutal conflict, France granted Algeria independence. The Algerian War stands as a stark reminder that victory on the battlefield does not always translate to success in a guerrilla war. Chapter 4. A Forgotten Conflict, the Philippine-American War. In the ashes of the Spanish-American War, a new conflict ignited in the Philippine archipelago. The United States, having just liberated the Philippines from Spanish rule, faced a new adversary: Filipino revolutionaries fighting for their own independence. Filipino revolutionaries led by Emilio Aguinaldo waged a fierce guerrilla campaign against the technologically superior U.S. forces. The Americans, initially unprepared for this type of warfare, found themselves fighting a shadowy enemy that blended seamlessly with the civilian population. They employed a combination of brutal counterinsurgency tactics and attempts to win hearts and minds. The conflict was characterized by atrocities on both sides. Despite facing fierce resistance, the Americans gradually gained the upper hand. They captured key Filipino leaders, including Aguinaldo himself, and slowly crushed the rebellion. The Philippine-American War officially ended in 1902, but sporadic fighting continued for years. Chapter 5. The Iron Fist, Russia's Second Chechen War. In the heart of the Caucasus Mountains, a brutal conflict raged between the Russian Federation and Chechen separatists. The Second Chechen War, erupting in 1999, was a brutal testament to the savagery of modern warfare. Chechen rebels, masters of guerrilla tactics, utilized the mountainous terrain and their knowledge of urban warfare to launch devastating attacks against Russian forces. The Russian response was swift and brutal. They unleashed overwhelming military force, bombarding Grozny, the Chechen capital, into rubble and engaging in fierce street-to-street fighting. The conflict was marked by human rights abuses and atrocities on both sides. Despite facing fierce resistance and international condemnation, Russia gradually gained control. They installed a pro-Moscow government and implemented a policy of Chechenization, empowering local forces to combat the insurgency. The Second Chechen War officially ended in 2009, but sporadic violence continued to plague the region. Chapter 6. The Mau Mau Uprising, a struggle for Kenya's soul. In the heart of colonial Kenya, a rebellion simmered, fueled by resentment towards land alienation and British rule. The Mau Mau Uprising, erupting in 1952, was a brutal struggle for the soul of a nation. The Mau Mau, drawn from the Kikuyu tribe, waged a guerrilla war against British colonial authorities and their African allies. The British response was swift and brutal. They declared a state of emergency, deploying thousands of troops to crush the rebellion. They implemented a policy of mass detentions, forcing hundreds of thousands of Kikuyu into overcrowded and unsanitary camps. Despite facing fierce resistance and international condemnation, the British gradually gained the upper hand. They captured key Mau Mau leaders, including Dedan Kimathi, and effectively dismantled the movement's infrastructure. The Mau Mau uprising officially ended in 1960, but its legacy continued to shape Kenya's post-colonial identity. Chapter 7. Colombia's Long Shadow, the fight against FARC. For over 5 decades, Colombia was embroiled in a brutal conflict with the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, or FARC. FARC rebels, funded by drug trafficking, launched attacks on government forces and civilians. The Colombian military, with U.S. assistance, responded with aggressive offensives and peace talks. In 2016, a historic peace agreement was signed, ending the conflict. The agreement offered hope for lasting peace and healing. Chapter 8. ETA's Silence, the end of an era in Spain. For decades, the Basque country in Spain was gripped by violence and terror. ETA, a Basque nationalist group, waged a bloody campaign for independence. They used bombings, assassinations, and extortion. The Spanish government responded with law enforcement and dialogue. In 2011, ETA announced a cessation of armed activity, ending an era of violence. Chapter 9. Shining Paths Eclipse, Peru's Fight Against Terror. In the remote Andes Mountains of Peru, a chilling new threat emerged in the 1980s. The Shining Path, a Maoist guerrilla group led by Abimael Guzman, launched a brutal campaign. Known for its extreme violence, the Shining Path terrorized the Peruvian countryside. The government responded with military force and social reforms. The turning point came in 1992, when Peruvian intelligence captured Guzman. His arrest dealt a devastating blow to the Shining Path's leadership and morale. Chapter 10. Zarbi-Azov Pakistan's offensive against the TTP. In the rugged mountains of North Waziristan, a new breed of militancy took root. The Tehrik-i-Taliban Pakistan, or TTP, an umbrella organization of various militant groups, waged a campaign of terror against the Pakistani state. In 2014, after years of escalating violence, the Pakistani military launched Operation Zarb-e-Azb, a full-scale offensive against the TTP in North Waziristan. The operation, named after the sword of the Prophet Muhammad, signaled Pakistan's resolve to eliminate the terrorist threat. The Pakistani military deployed ground troops, artillery, and air power to target TTP strongholds, hideouts, and training camps. The operation involved fierce fighting in mountainous terrain and urban centers, resulting in significant casualties on both sides. Zarb-e-Azb resulted in the displacement of hundreds of thousands of civilians, fleeing the fighting and seeking refuge in other parts of Pakistan. Despite the challenges and controversies, Zarb-e-Azb significantly degraded the TTP's operational capabilities. The operation disrupted their networks, destroyed their infrastructure, and forced many fighters to flee across the border into Afghanistan. Chapter 11. The Enduring Struggle. Lessons from Guerrilla Wars. As we've journeyed through these 10 conflicts from the jungles of Southeast Asia to the mountains of Latin America, one thing becomes clear. There is no single formula for victory in guerrilla warfare. Each conflict is unique, shaped by its own political, social, and geographic complexities. These stories serve as a stark reminder of the human cost of conflict, the enduring scars left on individuals, communities, and nations. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more military history content. See you next time.